committees and conversations. For nearly 4 years, the senator from the 4th has spent tireless effort dedicating literally almost his entire life, outside of maybe during tax season when he's doing his constituents' taxes, probably like you are doing right now, trying to solve this problem for millions and millions of Georgians and children and families so that they can live a better life, that they can read by 3rd grade, and one day they don't end up like a hoodlum ending up in prison because they didn't get the education that they deserve, and families can raise their kids how they want. So I just want to just publicly commend the senator from the 4th for being the one in the state capitol that started all this work, all these conversations, and led us to where we're at today as a Senate, Mr. President. And I think we ought to show him our recognition and our gratitude for the work that he has done. And the people of Bullitt County should be proud of what you've done and where you led us today. So, Senator, I just want to say thank you.
Senator from the 54th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be quick as also, but I just want to say thank you, Senator from the 4th, for what we've done in education, and I am so proud of the Education Committee for what we've accomplished in this regard, because it's not just been one person, it's been a team effort for everybody on that committee with a great leader in charge. But I will tell you this, I don't think we think of this in just terms of literacy and getting children to read and getting them an opportunity for a greater education. It's bigger than that. It's far greater than just children reading. This is about establishing kids the ability to have hope for their own futures. The kids I had in my office for 30 years were broken kids from broken homes, from broken families, who were all behind in every regard, not just reading and literacy. But to have these kids reading by the end of the 3rd grade and on grade level, all of a sudden they have changed their aspiration of their own future, because you've changed the trajectory of their own life, because now they can see something good down the road for them that they could never see before. That's what this literacy bill, it's going to be the greatest criminal justice reform we could ever accomplish in the adult world, is done by getting all of our children reading by the end of the 3rd grade. I can tell you that with complete confidence, with 30 years of evidence behind me in my youth working with those kids. So I just want to say this is a monumental moment for all of us in this body. We should all be proud of this accomplishment. And Mr. President, I will yield the well. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Now I'm ready for your motion, Senator, from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to suspend Senate Rule 7-1.6b to allow the immediate consideration of House Bill 1193 upon the adoption of the lengthy floor amendment.
Is there objection? Without objection, unanimous consent is had. And once again, I do want to thank the minority leader and Senator from the 41st and the 44th, because it had not been communicated properly to the leadership there in the minority party. That was the whole reason why we took a break, and very gracious and very understanding, and showed good leadership themselves, and making it so we didn't have a long, lengthy debate. And sometimes communication works, doesn't it? Open dialogue does work, doesn't it? So I appreciate that very much. And everyone who's worked very hard on this issue, thank you very much. And now the question is on the adoption of Amendment Number 1. By the senator from the 19th. Is there objection to the adoption of amendment number 1? Hearing none, amendment number 1 is adopted. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Good job, senators. Appreciate all your help, and hopefully we'll get it all worked out with the House now. Recognize the senator from the 51st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 8th for inside the Capitol.
All right. Without objection, senator from the 8th is excused. Y'all want to take another break? You want to go home? We can probably adjourn right now. Secretary read House Bill 1193. House Bill 445, excuse me.
House Bill 445 by Representative Martin of the 49th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to ad valorem taxation of property so as to revise the language required to be included in the notices of current assessment, to add hearing officer review for tax assessment of certain business personal property, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Rules recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Brasso's 6th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to House Bill 445, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to revenue and taxation so as to add hearing officer review for tax reassessment of certain business personal property, to revise the definition, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, a fiscal note has been attached. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 6th. The Rules Chairman, look at you running.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I bring to y'all HB 445. The underlying bill that came over from the House allows owners of certain personal property worth more than $200,000 to appeal to a hearing officer. So this adds a third step of appeals process. The hearing officer must be either an appraiser for or chief appraiser, and they may apply to be approved as these hearing officers by the Georgia Real Estate Commission and the Georgia Real Estate Appraisers Board. However, they cannot serve as a hearing officer in any county in which they have served as an appraiser for or chief appraiser. Section 1 was added. This adds water and sewer to the definition of public utilities, so an assessment would be handled by the Department of Revenue exactly like power, gas, telecom, cable, etc. These properties are already on the tax roll, and this language would only apply when the utility corridor is reassessed. I'll yield for questions. All right, I urge your favorable consideration for HB 445.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will say yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 46 and nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary Reed, House Bill 1116.
House Bill 1116 by Representatives Blackman of the 146th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapters 5 and 8 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to ad valorem taxation of property and sales and use taxes, respectively, so as to provide for the acceptance of tax digests in the event of a publication error made by a newspaper, to amend Part 4 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to financing under the Quality Basic Education Act so as to include amounts attributable to certain exemptions from ad valorem taxation from the Equalized Adjusted School Property Tax Digest for the purpose of calculating the local 5 mil share and equalization grants, to amend Article 1 of Chapter 81 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to local government budgets and audits, to provide for a short title, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Finance recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Huff-Settler, the 52nd District Chairman.
Tax digest and for other purposes.
Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Finance offers the following substitute to House Bill 1116, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Titles 20, 21, 36, and 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to education, elections, local government, and revenue and taxation, respectively, so as to provide for property tax reform, to establish a local homestead option sales tax, to provide for imposition, collection, and distribution of proceeds, to provide for definitions, to exclude amounts attributable to certain exemptions from ad valorem taxation from the Equalized Adjusted School Property Tax Digest, and for other purposes. Mr. President, a minority report has been attached. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from 52nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. After 2 unanimous votes, I hope we're headed for a third in a row here. This is the major property tax legislation for this session. It restores the mandatory opt-in requirements for the cap on increased assessments. That cap is 3% for homeowners or the CPI, whichever is greater. The Senate passed this by a vote of 42-7, and the House has now finally agreed 2 years later to this mandatory opt-in. Because of the mandatory opt-in, all cities and counties will now be eligible for the floating local option sales tax that we know as the FLOST. They can join the other 34 counties who passed a referendum to implement this tax last year. If all counties implement this, 2/3 of the cities will completely eliminate their property taxes for all classes. That's 2/3 of cities, and virtually every city and county will reduce their property taxes on city and county taxes by more than half. But in this bill, we give them another option. They can pass a local homeowner option sales tax instead. Under this method, the sales tax revenue would go to homeowners first. Under this method, just about every city and county would eliminate their homeowner property taxes. A few, such as Fulton, would only eliminate 91% of their homeowner property taxes. I say only 91%, but that is still a big improvement. And the rest of city and county taxes would be eliminated in some counties and reduced in other counties. Some examples are Paulding and Cobb County, who would eliminate their homeowner taxes on cities and counties and reduce their non-homeowner property taxes by 40%. The same for Clark County and non-homeowner by 58%, Fayette County by 50%, Glenn County by 92%, Peach County by 81%, and I could go on. It affects large and small counties, some more than others depending on the tax base. But under this version right now, and we're still working with the House, they're doing a version as well, but under this version, the homeowner option would not be available until next year because it would require local legislation. Section 3.1 and 3.2 are in the bill at the request of the school systems. They had concerns they could be hurt by the 5 mil share formula under QB. This section makes sure that they're not. Section 3.3 states that there are revenue increase caps. The local budgets cannot increase more than 3% of the CPI, but there's numerous exceptions to this. Any new construction, new growth doesn't apply. Any resold property, homes being resold or other property based on the new selling price, any property coming off tax abatements, TADs, etc., would be exempt from the cap. So there's a lot of allowances plus the rate of inflation. And I'll give an example on the inflation. In 2022, the CPI was 8%. So that would be allowed 8% plus all these other growth and new construction allowances. In 2023, the CPI was 4.1%. So again, those would be allowed plus the addition of resold property growth, TAD, etc. legislation. Some people say this is too lenient. Others probably say it's too tough. I believe it's a good starting point. And it will not take effect this year. It would not affect any taxes this year. It takes effect next year. And this is not a tax increase. This is using sales tax available under existing law. No increase in sales tax options that aren't currently available now. So I saw something from the ACCG that I didn't get it to me, but to some other members. And I'm kind of disappointed because I look on here and it talks about cost of consent decrees. Well, there's emergency provisions in the bill. It talks about capital projects. This bill doesn't touch SPLOST at all, either the school SPLOST or the local SPLOST. Tax revenue from property which was previously exempt due to a development authority, that's exempted as well. Property tax revenue which was previously redirected through a tax allocation district, a TAD, that's exempt as well. I don't know why we're getting this kind of information when we made allowances for all of that. You know, I'll have to say the only people that you're hearing from, and probably who I'm hearing from, are the people who get the tax money. I'm not hearing any complaints from anybody who's paying the tax money. And let's look at some other states. 36 states have caps on revenue. This isn't a new concept. Some are more strict than us. Ours, again, excludes new growth, home sales, construction, emergencies. It's supported by the Tax Foundation, the National Taxpayers Union, Americans for Prosperity, Georgians for Public Policy Foundation. Some limit it to the rate of inflation. Colorado, Kansas, Michigan, Missouri, Montana, New Jersey, New York, and South Dakota tie growth to the inflation rate. Others have a fixed percentage cap. Massachusetts, 2.5%. Idaho, 3%. Wisconsin, new construction only. Texas requires a voter referendum if local governments wish to increase property tax revenue by more than 3.5%. North Dakota has a 3% cap on revenue. Ohio caps property tax growth to the rate of inflation unless voters approve new levies. This is not a new concept. This is done and worked in many other states that haven't seen the increases that we've had here. And the fact is, we've had property tax increases in a 5-year period in some of our districts of 70, 84, 92, 107%. In many cases, with a declining school population, taxes are going up one way, student enrollment is going down. Our citizens who have to live within their means are frustrated with no choice but to see their taxes increase by double digits. And we're not asking them to do anything that the state has not done. For 20 years, adjusted for CPI and population, the state has lived within its means. And we are returning rebates. We're reducing the income taxes. We'll do it again. We're suspending gasoline taxes to help our citizens be able to afford the expenses thrown on them. We can all live within our means. Local government, state governments, as well as our citizens. The state is living within its means. I urge you to vote for this legislation. I urge your vote for this important measure, and I'll yield for any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you. I'll yield the well.
Recognize Senator from the 14th.
Thank you, Mr. President. People in this chamber like to brag a lot that Trump, the national politics don't affect state politics, that we somehow live free and clear of the effect of Trumpism. Let's use the analogy of rainwater at the top of a mountain. You know, like a mountain range, the very top of the ridge. When water falls, the top of a mountain, it either breaks this way or it breaks that way, and that determines what ocean it ends up in. Well, the rainwater of 2024 campaign season was the word affordability. And there's two options this year in 2026, now that we're going to have a referendum on what happened in 2024, two options for that water to break when it hits the top of the mountain ridge, and it either goes this way or that way. Republicans in both the Senate and the House heard the word affordability, saw the formidable rain clouds of 2024 politics. The rain dropped on the mountain, and when the majority in the Senate and the House convened before session, they decided the water would break this way, towards tax cuts. Now, Democrats, of course, have a bunch of ideas about how the water should break and subsidize health care and pay for child care and make sure public schools are within reach and fully funded according to poverty ways. We have a bunch of ideas, but we're not talking about that right now. Instead, the majority sets the agenda. Senator from the 31st and our visitor, Mr. Gullett from the House. The Senate and the House majority set the agenda, and the agenda is tax cuts. And one of the things the majority leader from the 31st district knows is that we had a big debate over income tax earlier this session. It was not long ago at all. In fact, it was in February. And in honor of the outgoing senator from the 44th, I will quote some of her words, which resonate in this chamber. This is from the Georgia Recorder, which does great work. Everybody give it up. Senator from the 44th said, "For the families that are struggling to pay rent, child care, utility bills, buy their groceries, it's worse than a slap in the face. It is a flat-out scam. That this was, quote, complete magical thinking that would inevitably lead to the state raising its sales tax." And we heard vociferous complaint from the majority back in February, 900 years ago at this point. When you passed the income tax break, you said, sales tax? Raise the sales tax? Such a thing is unthinkable. Couldn't possibly happen. Why, we've gone into the laboratory of budget math, where serious and great math is done on a regular basis. And the result of that alchemy, that magical math, is that there will be no increase in sales taxes. I feel like Dr. Seuss, not here, not now, not ever. Those promises in February were made about future increases in sales tax in a future session. Not even this one. My, how times have changed. It's not even April yet, it's March. It's the next calendar month after that debate. And here we are looking at one of the strangest, most Minotaur-looking sales tax increases I've ever seen in my life. It's like you put into ChatGPT, make me the weirdest possible sales tax increase you could imagine. And ChatGPT spat back out, well, what if we made 159 special districts that were coterminous with the counties of the state of Georgia so that we could bypass a 2/3 vote requirement on homestead exemptions? What if we did that? Is that weird enough? And the majority thought, should we reprompt ChatGPT for an even weirder sales tax? No, we'll go with this one. Friends, what you have before you is a property tax cap that is reflective of how water breaks when it comes down the side of a mountain. Now, let me chart it out for you. You've got the Democratic and Republican split at the top of the mountain, but on the Republican side of the mountain, there's another little split. There's a big rock, and there's a split that the stream takes toward the House side, and there's a stream that goes toward the Senate side. And the House side said, well, we think this income tax cut is kind of crazy. You know, in closed doors and back rooms down at the red phone booth with a couple old fashions and cigars, the House said, we think that cutting $9 billion out of the state's budget on an annual basis is a little too extreme. So the senator from the 31st, who is the majority leader of the Senate, is well aware that what the House decided to do instead was promise blanket property tax relief. So much so that their young upstart, the future, the Bildungsroman of Houston Gaines becoming a man and becoming a congressman, they decided to give him the homestead tax exemption that would eliminate homestead taxes completely on your first residence in the entire state of Georgia. Well, even that was a little bit crazy, too. Both the Senate and the House writing campaign checks that their appropriations could not cash. So the House said, let's moderate this property tax proposal. Instead, we'll go with the ChatGPT strangest sales tax increase of all time. What we'll do for our property tax relief is this. We will cap property taxes arbitrarily at a level, by the way, that the state's own appropriations or public school teacher salaries would have been unduly constrained by. And I have colleagues who I think will speak to that more. But we'll do a completely unrealistic property tax cap at a level of percent that is unsustainable, that local governments can't survive under, and the safety valve that we will give them so that they can make sure to pay their bills is what? A sales tax, a consumption tax on motor fuels, food ingredients, alcoholic beverages. Now, the great compassionate and merciful gods of the Republican majority have said that they will only impose the motor fuel tax if the price of gas is $3 or below. So if we're in an Iran war, we might not impose that one. But otherwise, yes, citizens of Georgia, the message is clear. In fact, the author said this, which I thought was highly clippable. I'll ask my team if we want to clip it later. But the quote was, we are doing the sales tax to pay homeowners, to fund a homestead exemption. So let's imagine the flow of water, this rainwater again. The water starts at people who buy groceries and pay for gas, and it flows to people who own property. Starts with people who pay for basic essentials, and that money flows as a subsidy to people who own houses. So if you're a senior who already benefits from substantial property tax relief, if you're a renter who does not own property because you haven't turned 40 yet, so you're not able to afford your first home because it's 2026, then you will be subsidizing, under House Bill 1116, property owners who likely have 6 or 7 figures in wealth already, if not more. That is the nature of this bill. It is a regressive transfer of wealth from people paying sales tax to homeowners. Now, you heard from the senator from the 52nd, this isn't new sales tax authority. Well, let's break that down. It's not new sales tax authority. Under current law, maybe these sales taxes could be imposed pursuant to a sales tax maximum, but it is a new sales tax. I want you to imagine going to somebody in line at Kroger or Publix or Piggly Wiggly and saying, don't worry, this isn't a new sales tax that you're paying, that extra 1%, because the state already had the authority to do it. I don't think a voter would like that argument. A 1% tax is a 1% tax, and this is a new consumption tax. Now, obviously, the local governments are pressed about this. You know, they are up against a wall. They've got a gun to their heads revenue-wise. Look, they're just trying to survive the rainwater. We're all trying to survive the affordability rain from the storms of 2024, all of us. But what the local governments are willing to do, unfortunately, if their backs are to the wall and they can't budget, they will pass the costs. If you strangle them, if you tie their hands behind their back and say you can't have your main source of revenue available to you, which is sensible, inflation-adjusted increases in their primary revenue source, if you can't have that, yes, they're going to be forced to ask you to put something in the bill that taxes consumers. I hope that the sunlight that a vigorous debate has or will shed on this argument will enable you to see the light prior to the last bell of sine die, to see that if voters are actually given a taste of what you're actually doing to them, the same session that you promised it would never happen, that this sort of relentless chase of whatever talking points we thought we could materialize in response to the affordability crisis, that maybe we will put the guns down. Because this is a talking point in search of a policy. That's all this is. The talking point, affordability, breaks down to either income or property tax, keeps rolling down the hill through local governments, and then it reaches the bottom of the mountain. And who's at the bottom of the mountain? The taxpayer, the person who doesn't own property, the person who can't afford rent or who is housing burdened. You know, I just saw a study recently that when all is said and done, people might have a few $100s left after paying their rent. An average family that's just trying to make ends meet. And that's a few $100s for health care, child care, food, you name it. So when the water starts at the top at Donald Trump and it rolls down through a bunch of legislators and a bunch of counties, it lands with the people who end up paying for it, and that is the Georgia consumer. You should vote no on House Bill 1116, but you won't, and the reason I know you won't is because the senator from the 52nd is ordinarily a very sensible guy. When the handcuffs of politics are taken off of his wrists, he's taken some hard votes this session. I like him a lot, but he's having to carry the water for the team. He's having to carry this caucus priority because ultimately when the rain falls, it's got to go somewhere. Mr. President, I'll yield for any questions.
No, I think everybody's breath is taken away. So you have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. President. See y'all again soon.
Senator from the 52nd, you're not carrying anybody's. You don't feel like you're carrying. I've got you. Wait 1 second before we close debate. There's a couple people who want to talk real quick. Senator from the 39th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, rise in opposition to HB 1116 because this bill is being framed as a path to home ownership or tax relief, but when you walk through what it actually does step by step, it tells a different story. It doesn't eliminate costs, it moves them. It moves them from property taxes to what will be sales taxes, from what you own to what you spend. And that sounds subtle, but for families it's not. Because property taxes are something you can plan for. They're visible, predictable, built into the cost of owning a home. Sales taxes are different. They show up every single day at the grocery store, at the gas pump, on everyday purchases that families don't have the luxury of avoiding. So what this bill does is take a cost that is fixed and visible and replace it with one that is constant and cumulative. And for many families, especially working families, middle-class households, and seniors on fixed incomes, that shift is not neutral. They spend more of their income on daily needs, which means they will feel this more, not less. So while this may be described as a tax relief, for many Georgians it will feel like something else. Not less, just different. Not eliminated, just redistributed. And that's only part of it. Because at the same time, while the bill places a hard cap, 3% or inflation, on how local governments and schools can grow their revenues, We all know that's not how the real world works. We've seen health insurance costs for school systems more than double. We've seen transportation costs increase dramatically. We've seen our own state budget grow dramatically over the last decade, and we're not capping our growth and revenue. So when real costs exceed an artificial cap, something has to give, and what gives is what people rely on. Fewer resources in the classrooms that are funded by these property taxes, pressure on public safety, deferred investments in the very infrastructure that holds communities together. This is the opposite of local control. This is the opposite of flexibility for our counties and our cities. It is constraint. And when you put these things together, it's a shift in who pays and a limit on how communities can respond. You begin to see the full picture. Because home ownership is not just about reducing one line item on a tax bill. It is about the total cost of living. It's about whether your community is strong, whether your schools are stable, whether your local government can respond when something unexpected happens. That's what protects property values, and that's what creates long-term stability. And when we shift costs in ways that hit families every day, while also constraining the systems that support them, we're not strengthening that foundation. We're putting pressure on it. So, Mr. President, this bill does not remove the burden. It simply moves it, and it limits the abilities of our communities to respond to it. And for that reason, I respectfully urge a no vote. And I will yield unless there are questions.
You do have one question, Senator. Recognize Senator from 36.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the gentlelady yield?
I do.
You and I, of course, share representation of school systems and the families, the communities that depend upon stable schools and schools that can meet their obligations and schools that can move into this space of literacy by third grade.
Yes.
Are you familiar with that the Georgia School Boards Association has some concerns around this bill?
Yes. The limitation on property tax, obviously our schools are funded primarily through local property taxes, and that cap on being able to generate that revenue does put more pressure on our schools, so many of whom actually are already feeling pressure because of the rising costs that they're already having to carry, and those burdens that the state has even shifted onto the local districts that we have ourselves moved away from a budgeting perspective at the state level for education.
Thank you for that. And isn't it true that school districts don't have access to a penny through the FLOST or the host the way counties and cities do?
That is correct.
It takes a constitutional amendment that would be required to add a penny for schools. Isn't that correct?
The senator knows of which he speaks.
Finally, thank you for illustrating, along with the earlier speaker in the well, the fact that a consumption tax really weighs on those who are battling every day with the affordability issue, and it's a reaction. It's a regressive form of taxation, indisputably. Is that not
Yes.
the case?
When you take what is effectively sales taxes today and force them to first be able to claw back property owners, homeowners' tax burden, then you are placing additional pressure on the people who do not own homes and don't have property. We are choosing to say that the people who own homes really are more important in that case than the other residents who may live in any particular city or county across the state of Georgia.
And ironically, isn't it true also that homeowners will feel the bite of
They
sales
will,
tax
because they will
increases as
also
well?
be every day in the grocery store and at the grocery pump and every day buying the things that you cannot avoid buying. So they will be paying more in their own sales taxes despite the ability to have a reduction or elimination of their property taxes.
Thank you, Senator.
And sales taxes end up costing more generally every year than one's property tax bill does, substantially more.
And as you made the point, of course, that the property tax is predictable.
Yes.
You are informed at several stages through the year what your obligation is going to be, and you have they have a pathway to challenging an assessment,
to appeal
and
the
being in a
assessment.
process to control, huge property increases. Isn't that the case as well?
That
The
is absolutely
predictability
correct.
point that you made.
Yes, we have the ability to appeal your assessment, your property tax bill. There's homestead exemptions that every county across the state offers to homeowners. So there are ways that homeowners right now today are already able to avoid some of that property tax burden that is not something that everyday consumers can avoid through sales tax.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. I shall yield. No more questions.
Thank you, Senator. Recognize Senator from the 56.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to take a moment to correct some misstatements that may have been made from the well. Very much appreciate my friend from the 39th, and I know she always speaks very responsibly and rationally. But the state budget in the last 26 years, since the year 2000, when you adjust for the increase of population and inflation, is up a net total of $108. So what we're asking local governments to do is what we have been doing here under good conservative budgeting for a quarter of a century. And there was a question from the senator from the 36. Well, they won't have access to education for a FLOST. That's right, they have an eSPLOST. They've had it in your area for many years, and they have it currently. Now, the senator from the 14th said no young person under the age of 30 could afford to buy a house. Well, timing is great. 40, I'm sorry, because my 23-year-old 90 minutes ago closed on his house. There's a picture of him holding up his keys. So, and you know what helps him get affordability from renting to buying? Lower property taxes. Because now you can afford to fulfill the American dream, to buy a house. You take off a couple $100 a month, that's the differential from home ownership. What happens with home ownership? People invest in their communities. They lay down roots. Their kids go to school there. They invest as room moms and coaches. They become a part of their church, their Rotary clubs, etc. People who own homes tend to invest more in their communities. They volunteer at charities that become the fabric of our society. We've talked about the top issue being affordability. This is exactly what this is. Is it going to probably get changed a little before it comes back for a final vote? Sure, that's the legislative process. But do not let the perfect be the enemy of the possible today. Thank you. I yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Senator from 52nd, you can close.
I heard an apology from somebody making me carry this. They had to do that to me. Well, nobody made me do anything. Back in 2002, we put some caps on the Floyd County Commission when I was there. And the newspaper was, businesses are going to flee town. And the local government won't be able to pay their bills. All these horror stories. And funny, it's still in place from 2002 to 2026, and none of that happened. I'm very familiar with this. I lived in Texas twice where they've got the cap and require a voter referendum. And they seem to be booming as a state very well. So I don't think anybody's getting strangled. I heard talk about predictability. When somebody's taxes in a 5-year period go up 107%, their school taxes went up 107%, that's not predictability. Where was everybody crying for those people when that happened? When Douglas County went up 84% in 5 years, who was crying for the affordability of those people who suddenly had a mortgage that was hundreds of dollars higher, if not more? And I've worked on affordability issues for a long time here. As you know, taxes, electricity, home affordability. I also want to say again, this is not a new sales tax. We're given an option to transfer from one to another that's already eligible. It's been eligible. This is not a sales tax increase. And I do think there's several points on sales tax. One, a lot of that tax is paid from people who come visit Georgia. And so that reduces the burden on Georgians as a whole. A lot of those taxes will mean lower payments for a loan for rental property, which is going to factor into the price of rent. And it's certainly going to help that homeowner who will see a third of their property taxes go away. The school taxes will still be there, but most all their other taxes, city and county, will be completely gone, and the others won't be having the massive increases we've seen of 20-30% in 1 year. And I didn't look at ChatGPT either. I think there was a district attorney who did that recently here and had all these fake court cases, so I try to stay away from that and deal in the facts that are there. We've seen collective fund balances from our school systems more than double in a 5-year period, more money in the bank than we've got in the state. I think the revenue is there. I think that what has happened is our homeowners had the money transferred from their bank account, their savings account, or their checking account into somebody else's savings account. And I'm all for healthy fund balances, but we've got to address that when you're increasing taxes by over 100% in a 5-year period. I think everyone is right. This bill is going to change a little bit more. We're going to get with the House. We're going to work on some things. They're going to work on some things. I think we'll have a good product when it finishes up. I hope it can be something we can all vote on at the end, but we'll just have to see. With that, Mr. President, I yield the well, and I certainly urge your favorable support. Do this for your people back home. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the reported committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The reported committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine.
Green.
On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 31, the nays are 19. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary read House Bill 1215.
House Bill 1215 by Representatives Parrish of the 158th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-6-2 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the number of judges of Superior Court so as to provide for a third judge of the Superior Courts of the Middle Judicial Circuit, to provide for the appointment and term of such additional judge by the governor, to authorize the governing authority of the counties comprising the Middle Judicial Circuit to provide facilities, office space, supplies, equipment, and personnel for such judges, to declare inherent authority, to provide for related matters, to provide for effective dates, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Judiciary recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Strickland, the 42nd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary offers the following substitute to House Bill 1215, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-6-2 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the number of judges of Superior Court so as to provide for a third judge of the Superior Courts of the Middle Judicial Circuit, to provide for a sixth judge of the Superior Courts of the Northeastern Judicial Circuit, to provide for a 12th judge of the Superior Courts of the Gwinnett Judicial Circuit, to provide for the appointment and term of such additional judges by the governor, to provide for the election in terms of successors to the judges initially appointed, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 42nd, old country lawyer from McDonough, Georgia, right here.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a country lawyer bill to bring more judgeships out in the country and a little bit to the city as well. What this bill does, we combined some of our requests for new Superior Court judgeships into one bill. As some of y'all discussed before, there's a process through Judicial Council where they review our circuits and determine which circuits qualify to have new judges. This obviously is very important in these circuits to help move criminal cases and civil cases and make sure that justice happens quicker for people in these areas. The three circuits that are included in this bill are the Northeastern Judicial Circuit, which is Hall County, the Middle Judicial Circuit, which is down by where the senator from the 19th is from, and also the Gwinnett Judicial Circuit. Happy to take any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you.
Oh.
I'll take one question. It could save a floor speech if you take a question.
Recognize the senator from 36.
Don't make me regret it now.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wondered if you've picked your predecessor now that you're going to vacate this chairmanship of Judiciary.
Have I picked someone?
Yes, do you have any ideas about that?
Well, I know there's some people that would be very qualified that have spent years being a full leader that might be a good person to come in potentially, but I don't know.
Does his uncle serve down here as well? I'm just
I believe he does.
We got one that's got a whole lot of experience right there.
And is his daddy a doctor? Would that be honing in on the...
What's that?
I said, is his daddy a doctor by any chance?
Oh, I think he might be. But luckily for everyone involved, no matter what happens in the elections, I will not make that decision next year. So
you will be missed.
He was a collegiate swimmer, too, at Georgia Tech as well.
That's right.
Besides being a longtime floor leader, a career floor leader, he was a top-notch swimmer at Georgia Tech. Can you believe that?
True, noted, or I have made note of the fact that since the first year he got here, he has promoted young entrepreneurs and young business people and local craftspeople by bringing down their wares and their creations and sharing them generously with his fellow senators.
I'm just glad we can use this bill to recognize the senator from the 50th and all of his service over the years to this body. And is this your farewell speech? You mean to give that right now?
All of his wonderful talents.
He plans to come back, I think, President, if the voters so choose. Or he could get a judgeship potentially somewhere if he moves.
Well, there you go. Never say never.
I think it's time to yield the well.
All right.
Thank you.
The old country lawyer yields the well. See, we played so much, now we got an amendment. Secretary, read the amendment.
Mr. President, Senators Halpert of the 39th District and others offers the following amendment. Amendment 1, amend the Senate Committee on Judiciary substitute to House Bill 1215 by inserting after provide for a, on line 2, 21st Judge of the Superior Courts of the Atlanta Judicial Circuit, a 6th Judge of the Superior Courts of the Clayton Judicial Circuit, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 39th to speak to her amendment. Her late arriving amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hello again, colleagues. This amendment is seeking additional judge. I'll speak to the Fulton, the Atlanta Judicial Circuit piece, and it also includes Clayton County. As you know, every year the Judicial Council ranks the circuits most in need of a new judge. And traditionally, we, the General Assembly, create new judgeships in the top 3 circuits. Fulton, or the Atlanta Circuit, was 4th on the list by a decimal point. We often argue about the way the weighting is done, to be very honest, because we have additional pressures on our court because of the complexity of the cases. Because we are the capital city and capital county, we have more cases, more complex cases, so we missed it by a decimal point. It's high enough, the load is high enough to support 26 judges. Currently there's 20. This would give us a 21st. And I will just say that the Judicial Council message is that they're happy for us to support more circuits with more judges as long as this doesn't supplant one of the top 3, which is not the plan, of course. And this amendment was unanimously passed in the House, and the county supplement will help to offset some of the costs that are hopefully going to be in the budget should the budget pass. If the money's not there, then we just don't get a judge. But if the money ends up being in the budget, then we have created the vehicle to get this done. Thank you. Okay, I yield.
Secretary read the second amendment that we have.
Mr. President, Senators Tillery and others offers the following amendment to amend House Bill 1215, Amendment 1A, by adding after B on line 15, subject to appropriations. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Senator from the 19th, would you like to speak to it? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. The Senator from the 44th, would you like to speak? You recognize Senator from the 44th?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to quickly speak to the Clayton County portion of the amendment. Clayton County entered the qualifying list that the Administrative Office of the Courts puts together to be eligible to receive a new judge as of 2020, and meaning the 2021 legislative session. Highest it got was 4th before falling off. This year, I was running the process as a new member of the delegation, followed the process, and in July, after the committee met, the word came back to myself and the chief judge, Judge Robert Mack, that Clayton's numbers were too low to qualify for the list. Immediately, the chief judge said something's wrong because we've been on for 5 years and our workload has only gone up. So without making the story too long, they resubmitted their numbers. They discovered that there had been a clerical error in the numbers submitted. And when they finally reran the numbers and approved them, it turned out that Clayton Judicial Circuit has the highest workload of any circuit in the entire state. The Judicial Workload Council, who does do great work and gives us good advice some of the time, sent a letter to me and Judge Mack December 17th saying, sorry, it's far too late to put you on the list, even though the numbers had gotten to them on September 4th. And I feel that that process is not producing the results that they claim it is intended to, and I think we could all agree in that. I've got the letter here showing that Clayton indeed is the very highest workload circuit in the entire state, and for that reason, colleagues, we should all be able to agree that they should get a new judge this year. And I really appreciate all the hard work on this issue of my friends, the senators from the 50th, 42nd, 19th. A lot of people have been really supportive, understanding that this clerical error should not stand in the way of justice. And one more thing before I sit down. Many of you know, but many probably don't, that the Clayton Judicial Circuit handles the crimes out of Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. And with the World Cup coming, we know that there will be a lot of human trafficking and other crimes that our system is going to need to be watching for and cracking down on. And we want this circuit, which does handle a relatively high number of serious crimes like human trafficking, like murder, who keeps all of us in the entire state safe by handling Hartsfield-Jackson. When they are the highest circuit, they do deserve and should get a new judge this year without further delay. Happy to answer any questions or yield the well, Mr. President.
You have one question, Senator from 35th.
Thank you, Senator. Do you yield?
Certainly, I yield.
Is it not true that with this amendment we can fix a clerical error and make sure that we are promoting safety and make sure that our judges are not overworked?
That's exactly right. You said it perfectly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
You have no more questions, Senator.
Thank you. I urge your favorable consideration. It would seriously help this circuit as well as Atlanta, and the amendment from the 19th, fine amendment, and it is not a budget-busting proposition in any case. I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Is there any other senator wish to speak for or against the measures? Hearing none, is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. Previous question is ordered. So now we're going to take up the amendments. Take up Amendment 1A, authored by the senator from the 19th. Is there objection to 1A? Without objection, 1A is amended. Question now is on the adoption of Amendment 1, authored by the senator from the 39th. Is there objection to the senator from the 39th? It is objection. All right. All those in favor of amendment number 1, authored by the senator from the 39th, will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 44th. What purpose you
Parliamentary
rise?
inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Wouldn't it be true, Mr. President, that because of Amendment 1A, this legislation would not impact our budget and simply tease things up for these high workload circuits?
Senator knows what she speaks. On the adoption of Amendment 1, the yeas are 28 and the nays are 20, and this amendment passes. You won, Senator. There's no need to reconsider. You won. Just takes a simple majority. They're so shocked right now. Y'all want to take a break, take a victory lap real quick? I'm so proud of y'all. All right. All right, the question is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Hearing none, the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine.
Well, even if it's just you and me, Randy, what do you think? Well, that's actually not true, but we may vote red on this bill. That is probably
On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 3. And this bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary read House Bill 1245.
House Bill 1245 by Representatives Cameron of the 1st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for the election of the members of the Board of Education of Walker County, approved March 8, 1968, as amended, so as to provide that future members of the board shall be elected by the voters of the respective education districts by the voters of the entire school system, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on State and Local Government Operations General recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon of the 45th District Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Senator, come on, 45. You're a long ways from Buford on this bill here, Senator.
Thank you, President. Mr. President, you are correct. That is not in my district. Senate colleagues, the next 5 bills before you will be all local bills. The reason we're having to take them up as general bills is we have vacancies in the chamber and wanting to move this local legislation along. Had we not had those vacancies on the next 5 bills, you would have been voting green on the consent calendar. Just wanted to let everybody know that. The first bill, what it has to do with is Walker County, and it's creating districts for their Board of Education. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield the well.
There are no questions. Does any senator wish to speak for or against the measure? The chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection for the main question to be ordered? The chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine.
You want red? Yeah, cooking with gas now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can do these next. These are all local bills. Next, rather. Next. You said 13, 17, right? Coming up next, yeah. These are all the local bills for Freddie Powell.
On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48, the nays are 0. This bill, having received requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary read House Bill 1317.
House Bill 1317 by Representatives Horner of the 3rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to authorize the governing authority of the city of Fort Oglethorpe to levy an excise tax pursuant to subsection B of Code Section 48-13-51 of the OCGA, to provide procedures, conditions, and limitations, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on State and Local Government Operations General recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon, the 45th District Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 45th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Another local bill. Senators, please vote green. This has to do with levying a excise tax in the city of Fort Oglethorpe. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
We have a question about this. Yes. Yield the will. Run. Run. Run.
Senator Recognize Senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator, you yield?
I do.
Senator, my friend, the senator from the 50th, was afraid to ask you this, but he's a little bit worried. He knows that he's obviously the most famous floor leader, but he's wondering now, are you the senator from the 53rd's floor leader after these past two bills?
Well, I can see where you've drawn that conclusion. But when I was the floor leader a few sessions ago, I was given an award for being the First Lady's floor leader instead of the governor's floor leader. So.
No further questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none, and the report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 41, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary read House Bill 1523.
House Bill 1523 by Representatives Chokas of the 151st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to create the Sumter County Public Facilities Authority and to provide for the appointment of members of the authority, to confer powers upon the authority, to authorize and provide for the issuance of revenue bonds, to provide that credit is not pledged, to provide for security, validation, and protection of revenue bonds, to provide bondholder remedies, to fix and provide the venue and jurisdiction, to provide for proceeds as trust funds, to provide for tort immunity, to provide for the tax statutes of property and revenue bonds of the authority, to provide for reversion of assets, to provide for construction and severability, to provide a short title, to provide for definitions, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on State and Local Government Operations General recommends that this bill to pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon, the 45th District Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the Senator from the 45th.
$1523.
Repeat that, Senator. I'm sorry.
Will do, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the Senate table HB 1523 in honor of the senator from the 12th.
All right. That is her district. The motion is for us to table House Bill 1523. Is there objection? I don't recognize his objection. So is there objection besides anybody from the 6th? Okay, without objection, it is tabled. Secretary read House Bill 1526.
House Bill 1526 by Representatives Green of the 154th, a bill to be entitled an act to repeal a former local constitutional amendment, which former local constitutional amendment was continued in effect as statutory law pursuant to Article 7, Section 2, Paragraph 4 of the Constitution of Georgia, and which provided a 5-year exemption from local ad valorem property taxes to any person who built, equipped, established, completed, or enlarged a plant for manufacturing or processing in Early County. To provide that exemption granted prior to the effective date of this act shall continue for the remainder of their unexpired terms to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on State and Local Government Operations General recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon, the 45th District Chairman. Mr. President, please the order.
Recognize the senator from the 45th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This deals with Early County, and it removes a 5-year requirement before you can start getting a homestead exemption. With that, Mr. President, I'll yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objections to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary read House Bill 1543.
House Bill 1543 by Representative Lumsden of the 12th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing a $40,000 homestead exemption from certain ad valorem taxes levied by, for, or on behalf of the Chattooga County School District for residents of that district who are 70 years of age or older and whose gross income does not exceed $20,000, approved April 23, 1998, so as to increase the income cap on such exemption, to increase the value of the exemption in steps over a 2-year period, to revise the definition, to provide for compliance with constitutional requirements, to provide for a referendum, effective dates, automatic repeal, mandatory execution of election, and judicial remedies regarding failure to comply, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on State and Local Government Operations General recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dixon of the 45th District Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 45th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill, it increases the homestead exemption for Chattanooga County and also increases the income limit as well for seniors. With that, Mr. President, I'll yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Some of you young guys could learn from the senator from the 45th. He passes, gets in there, and gets out. Senator from the 52nd, for what purpose did you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Could the senator from the 45th pronounce it Chattooga County when he does the next bill?
I'm sure he can, Senator. Senator from the 35th, for what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it true that this is home of the Sloppy Floyd State Park?
You know, Senator, I think you might be right. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 44 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary read House Bill 1544.
House Bill 1544 by Representatives Loveson of the 12th. A bill to be entitled an act to provide a homestead exemption from Chattooga County ad valorem taxes for county purposes in the amount of $70,000 of the assessed value of the homestead for residents of that county who are 70 years of age or older and whose income does not exceed $38,000, to provide for definitions, to specify the terms and conditions of the exemption and the procedures relating thereto, to provide for applicability, to provide for compliance with constitutional requirements, to provide for referendum, effective dates, automatic repeal, mandatory execution of election, and judicial remedies regarding failure to comply, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on State and Local Government Operations General recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted to Senator Dixon of the 45th District Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the Senator from the 45th.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, on that last bill, colleagues, I think I needed my glasses on. I apologize. But this last one here has to do with creating school districts for school board members in Walker County. With that, Mr. President, I'll yield the well.
You did have questions, Senator. I think he had his counties mixed up. Probably need your reading glasses. You got your counties mixed up, but I think you're still going to pass. So I think you're all right, Senator. It's Chattooga County is who we're talking about. Chattooga County. The man from Gwinnett is just pinch hitting for somebody who's not here. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objections to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 46, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary read, special action. Read the message from the House.
Mr. President, the following message was received from the House through Mr. Riley, the clerk thereof. Mr. President, the House has passed by the requisite constitutional majority the following bill of the House. House Bill 1522 by Representatives Bruno of the 77th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to create the Clayton County Water Authority, approved March 7th, 1955, as amended so as to authorize the Board of the Authority to fix the compensation and reimbursement of expenses for members of the Board, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
State and local government. Put it in state and local government. Secretary read the House Bill 1129.
House Bill 1129 by Representative Seabaugh of the 34th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 36-88-6 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to criteria for enterprise zones so as to provide for the designation of enterprise zones, to provide that enterprise zones shall not qualify for exemption from state sales and use tax, to provide an exemption, to provide for collection and assessment of fees, to provide for the use of the principle of revenue bonds, to limit the number of enterprise zones in urban redevelopment areas, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Rules recommends that this bill to pass by substitute respectfully submitted Senator Brass, the 6th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to House Bill 1129, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 88 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to enterprise zones so as to provide that enterprise zones shall not qualify for exemption from state sales and use tax, to provide for an exception, to provide for collection and assessment of fees, to provide for the use of the principle of revenue bonds, to limit the number of enterprise zones in urban redevelopment areas, to provide a sunset date, to make allowances for enterprise zones in existence, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Senator from the 50th, the longest serving floor leader in the history of the Georgia Senate. Give him a round of applause right there. Amazing.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to bring House Bill 1129. This bill is about modernizing Georgia's enterprise zone law to make sure incentives are targeted, accountable, and fiscally responsible. Right now, enterprise zones can be applied too broadly and in some cases expose the state to tax losses without significant guardrails. This bill fixes that. First, it targets incentives only to truly distressed areas. Projects must be located in an urban redevelopment area and certified as underdeveloped for at least 20 years. And it applies only to transformational projects with a minimum $400 million private capital investment. Second, it protects state taxpayers. Local governments can offer local sales tax exemptions, but state sales tax exemptions are no longer automatic. Any state exemption must be approved by the governor, ensuring accountability and fiscal review. Third, it gives local governments a smart way to build infrastructure without risking the general fund. The bill allows infrastructure fees capped at the value of the exemption to fund roads, utilities, and public improvements through revenue bonds, and it clearly prohibits using public funds to guarantee or repay private investment. The bottom line is this bill supports economic growth, protects taxpayers, and ensures enterprise zones are used for real redevelopment, not blank checks. Ask for your favorable consideration, and I yield the well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator, you had questions. You had a lot of questions, Senator. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Chair hears none. Is there objections to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 45, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. We're going to take a 10-minute recess. Secretary has got there's a little log jam. It's having a little technical difficulties. So we're going to take a 10-minute recess, and we'll be back. Don't worry. We're coming back. I would advise the leaders to go ahead and order dinner for your people. And Senators from the 50th, if you need any help being the sole floor leader in this room, we can help you with that. So 10-minute break. Stand at ease. Did I hear a little classical music over there? Hold on, wait a minute. Stop that lady right there. Did we hear some classical music? Let's hear that. Oh, all right. All right. Good job, Representative. We ain't actually come back to order yet, so she was fine. She was fine. Now we're back to order here, so. Better be glad, because Russ is about to break out his Elvis. Senate will come to order. Secretary. House Bill 1415.
House Bill 1415 by Representative Seabaugh of the 34th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 4 of Article 6 of Chapter 3 of Title 12 and Article 1 of Chapter 16 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Stone Mountain Memorial Association and public property of state generally, respectively, so as to require such association to hold all real property attained before January 1st, 1971 in trust, to prohibit such association from selling such real property, to provide for an exception, to provide for requirements for the exceptional sale of real property by such association, to provide for applicability, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Government Oversight recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Bearden, Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 49th.
I'll take it, Mr. President. Thank you. Good afternoon, colleagues. This afternoon I bring to you HB 1415 on behalf of Governor Kemp. This bill is about protecting Stone Mountain Park while ensuring responsible stewardship of state-owned property. The Stone Mountain Memorial Association was created to assemble and preserve the land that became Stone Mountain Park. Between 1959 and 1970, the association acquired the property that forms the original park footprint as we know today. This legislation fully preserves and protects that original footprint exactly as it was intended. Over the decades, the association has acquired additional properties outside the original footprint. Some of those parcels were purchased for special projects, Olympic-related needs, employee benefits, or anticipated development that ultimately did not move forward. At the same time, Stone Mountain Park faces more than $40 million in deferred maintenance. In that context, it is appropriate to ensure the association has the tools to responsibly manage non-core properties while maintaining full protections for the park itself. This bill accomplishes three things. First, it preserves and protects the original Stone Mountain Park footprint. Second, it provides flexibility for the responsible management of non-core properties acquired in later decades. And third, it strengthens transparency and accountability by bringing Stone Mountain real property transactions under the review and approval of the State Properties Commission, aligning the association with standard state practices. Mr. President, I yield for questions.
You'll have one question. Senator from the 42nd.
As Senator, yield.
To my good friend from the 42nd.
Is this a governor's bill?
Yes, sir.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir.
I'm just a little bit concerned. We've had a lot of celebrations lately about the longest serving floor leader in Georgia history, I think in the nation's history, after 15 years as a floor leader, 3 different governors, I think. And I'm just worried, is there some reason that the nationally recognized longest serving floor leader in U.S. history didn't get to carry this governor's bill?
I heard a little rumor that the hatchet got dull. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Wow. Wow. That wasn't very nice, Senator. I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, you've been floor leader so long. I mean, like 12 years now that, I mean, there's a direct correlation for us being the #1 place to do business for the last 12 years. And your leadership as floor leader. Yeah, I think so. Tell you what, Senator, they just don't give you enough credit. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary read House Bill 1077.
House Bill 1077 by Representatives William of the 148th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-8-3 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to exemptions from sales and use taxes so as to extend the sunset date applicable to the exemption for sales of tickets, fees, and charges of admission to certain museums and fine arts performances or exhibitions at nonprofit facilities, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Rules recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Brass, the 6th District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Rules offers the following substitute to House Bill 1077, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48-8-3 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to exemptions from sales and use taxes so as to extend the sunset date applicable to the exemption for sales of tickets, fees, and charges of admission to certain museums and fine arts performances or exhibitions at nonprofits facilities, to create an exemption for sales of tickets, fees, or charges for admission to the Georgia National Fair held at the Georgia National Fairgrounds and Agri Center, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the Senator from the 4th.
Mr. President, thank you, sir. This House Bill 277 extends an existing sales tax exemption. This actually extends it through December 31, 2032, and it's a sales tax exemption for tickets and related fees for fine arts performances or exhibitions if they are held by or take place at a qualifying 501c3 nonprofit or culturally significant museum focused on arts, education, or cultural programming. And as request from the Senator from the 11th, we've also added into it as amendment by the Senate. This bill now includes a sales tax exemption for admission to the Georgia National Fair at the Georgia National Fairgrounds and Agri Center. As I stated earlier, this extends the exemption to December 31, 2032 as the sunset. Mr. President, I yield the will. Thank you.
Recognize Senator from 56.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the senator from the 4th. He's always so eloquent in his delivery. I rise in opposition to this bill because we're picking winners and losers. If you go to a non-for-profit location and hear an artist perform, a band perform, etc., you're not going to pay tax. If that very same artist goes to a for-profit a mile down the road, you're going to pay tax on it. Either everybody pays or nobody pays. It just doesn't make sense, and we should do better than picking winners and losers. Thank you. I yield the will.
Recognize the senator from the 14th.
Mr. President, thank you. I rise in enthusiastic support of this bill. I think to address the senator from the 56 concerns, any venues that are in a county that has a medical examiner instead of a coroner should be exempt from the tax. Of course, anybody who is in a county with a coroner should pay the tax. Now, I don't subscribe to that. I just think the senator from the 56, if he thinks that all should be consistent, that might be an amendment that he would want to propose to align with his philosophy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 43 and the nays are 5. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary Reed, House Bill 1202.
House Bill 1202 by Representatives Corbett of the 174th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 35-6A-17 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to Georgia Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Advisory Board membership and termination so as to correct a scrivener's error and a cross-reference to provide for related matters to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers of the 56th District Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from the 56.
Thank you, Mr. President. This will probably be the easiest bill we do all day. House Bill 1202 simply corrects a Scrivener's error for a code section that was inadvertently done last year. If there are no questions, I'll yield the will.
No questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. The question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor of the bill vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. Senator from the 6th. We sure are getting a lot of House members over here. Are they passing our bills over there, Senator? Recognize the Senator from the 6th.
Mr. President, I checked on the House a little while ago. They're doing a little bit of work over there. Some, they're passing some.
I mean, we're getting a lot in this chamber right now. I mean,
we're knocking it out. That's because you got such a great calendar before you.
Somehow I knew you'd turn it back to you. I mean, you see the collection of no's right here. I think y'all got together over there. Senator from the 27th, what purpose do you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, is it not true that all of us over here in Freedom Corner believe that all Scrivener's errors should be sunset?
The Freedom Corner, huh? Is that what y'all call yourselves? On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 41, the nays are 6. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Senator from the 38th, what purpose do you rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 36th.
Without objection, the senator from 36 is excused. Secretary Reed, House Bill 1238.
House Bill 1238 by Representatives Dempsey of the 13th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 4 of Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to medical assistance generally so as to direct the Department of Community Health to submit a waiver request to the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to authorize the qualification of certain caregivers for Medicaid reimbursement for the provision of respite care and related services, to provide for implementation upon approval, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson, the 1st District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services offers the following substitute to House Bill 1238, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 4 of Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to medical assistance generally so as to direct the Department of Community Health to submit a waiver request to the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services to authorize the qualification of certain caregivers for Medicaid reimbursement for the provision of respite care and related services, to provide for implementation upon approval, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Call on the longest serving floor leader of all time, Senator from the 50.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I rise to bring House Bill 1238. What this bill does is it takes legislative approval for certain Medicaid waivers. This will allow families the opportunity to get a Medicaid waiver for children under the age of 21 that need in-home care so that they don't have to put their child in a nursing home. I'm happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor of the bill will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 46, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary Reed, House Bill 506.
House Bill 506 by Representatives Hilton of the 48th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 4 of Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to medical assistance generally so as to provide Medicaid coverage for tobacco cessation treatments, to provide for requirements, to provide for submission of a state plan amendment on or waiver, if necessary, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson, the 1st District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services offers the following substitute to House Bill 506, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 20E of Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated the Surprise Bill and Consumer Protection Act so as to provide for insurance coverage for certain out-of-network ambulance transportation services, to provide for the minimum allowable reimbursement rate for such service, to provide for maximum amounts on co-payments, co-insurance, or deductibles for such service, to provide for definitions, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 48th.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, as we just heard, the underlying on this was a bill on stopping smoking. Good bill, but it is not that bill anymore. This is an ambulance billing bill, not an ambulance chaser bill. Floor leader, emeritus. It's not an ambulance chaser bill. Just an ambulance billing bill, in case you were confused on that. I just want you to be locked in on me on this one, all right, sir? So we're good. All right, I got you good. This bill passed February the 18th out of this body. It is the exact same language that we put back in it. Happy to answer any questions. We have been through it pretty thoroughly a couple of times now, but if y'all do have any questions, happy to answer them. Seeing none?
No questions, Senator.
Happy to yield. Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. Previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the Porter Committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. Porter Committee is agreed to. Is there objection? Main question being ordered. Chair hears none. Main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary Reed, House Bill 382.
House Bill 382 by Representative Steffens of the 164th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 16-13-25 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to Schedule 1 controlled substances so as to revise the provision relating to psilocybin to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson, the 1st District Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the good doctor from Savannah, Georgia. Senator from the 1st, present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me just say, first of all, that there are no psychedelics that are on the market here in the state of Georgia or anywhere in the United States. They are Schedule 1 drugs, but they are in Stage 2 trials. If you'll remember, they're Stage 1, 2, and 3. Stage 2 really establishes the dosage. And this bill, I should note that those medicines, potential medicines, are they're in a fast track relating to the FDA approval. So what this does is allow that if medicines like that should be approved, then we would not have to wait till next year, which basically means about a year and a half before people would be able to get these. Veterans right now are going to Mexico and getting these medicines, and I will say the articles published in the Journal of the American Medical Association does show significant improvement. As a matter of fact, one dose will equal to a month's worth of symptoms markedly reduced relating to generalized anxiety disorder. So this basically allows us, as we do a drug update bill, as I've done here, this will preempt that, and if this will automatically trigger that we could use it here in Georgia if it gets FDA approval and gets off the Schedule 1 and drops down to Schedule 2, 3, or 4. And with that, Mr. President, let me just say it also has a pharmacy technician on there that increases the number of technicians that a pharmacy can supervise. So that's two parts to the bill relating to that. And lastly, let me just say this bill has nothing to do with the senator from the 50th, the governor's floor leader, at all. So. With that,
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passes of the bill, the yeas are 38 and the nays are 10. Oh, wow. Looking at this coalition here. Red, there's nothing wrong with the red button now. I used to use mine a lot when I was in the Senate. So this bill, having received requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary read House Bill 943.
House Bill 943 by Representative Silcox of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to programs of protection for children and youth so as to establish a pilot program relating to the provision of screenings, clinical evaluations, training services, and resources for autism spectrum disorder to children in foster care, to provide for definitions, to provide for the Division of Family and Children's Services of the Department of Human Services to develop and implement such pilot program, to provide for a final report and recommendations, to provide for rules and regulations, to provide for automatic repeal, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Children and Families recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick, the 32nd District Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to start by thanking the senator from the 50th for his work on this. Senate Bill 943. As you know, we've been working for many, many years on our foster care program, and we identified that children in our foster care program are 6 to 7 times more likely to have autism. Obviously, autism is not caused by foster care. The reason they're in foster care, it appears, is probably because of the autism. We passed a similar Senate version a few weeks back. The House has a version they've sent over in an effort to make sure that it passes both chambers and makes it to final signature of the governor. Representative Silcox sent this our way. It's House Bill 943. It would do 3 pilots to complement what we've already done as 1 pilot in Region 12, and to see if that correlation that we saw is identified across other geographic regions as well. Happy to take any questions, or I'll yield the well.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I urge favorable consideration of House Bill 943.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. Report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 46 and nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. I am sorry that I missed Mr. Robert Brown's birthday recognition earlier today. I just like to wish him a happy birthday. That's a good man right there, ladies and gentlemen. He's been doing this a long time, and we appreciate you, Robert, and everything you do here for this chamber. And I just hope you've had a great day today. So, happy birthday, my friend. Mm-hmm. Oh, good, good. That's good to hear. Secretary Reed, House Bill 943. 1015, House Bill 1015.
House Bill 1015 by Representatives Werkheiser of the 157th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 10 of Chapter 9 of Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Self-Insurers Guarantee Trust Fund regarding workers' compensation so as to revise certain funded levels of such fund to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Insurance and Labor recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Harbin of the 16th District Chairman. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 32nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a workers' comp bill, and it is brought on behalf of the Self-Insured Guarantee Trust Fund. They have reached their cap, and in order to avoid assessing their members, they need to raise the cap to guard against bankruptcy. And I'm sure that the governor's floor leader is very familiar with this situation. There's been no opposition to the bill. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You have no questions, Senator? Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there objection to agreeing to a report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill. All those in favor vote yea. All opposed nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 46 and the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Secretary Reed, House Bill 1283.
House Bill 1283 by Representatives Panich of the 51st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 13 of Title 19 and Chapter 16 of Title 17 of the OCGA relating to family violence and discovery, respectively, so as to authorize the creation of family justice centers to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Albers, Chairman.
Mr. President, Jackson offers the First Amendment all the way through 2.
Mr. President, Senators Jackson of the 41st District and others offers the following amendment. Amendment 1, amend House Bill 1283 by replacing lines 1 and 2 with the following: to amend Chapter 13 of Title 19 and Title 17 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to family violence and criminal procedure, respectively, so as to authorize the creation of, by replacing lines 218 through the and with the following: Section 2, and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senators Jackson of the 41st District offers the following amendment to amend House Bill 1283, Amendment 1A, by striking 30 on line 15 and replacing with 10. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize the senator from the 29th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 1283 is a very serious piece of legislation. It deals with family violence. And if you need to know the need for this, you'll find it on lines 18 through 20. The General Assembly finds that victims of family violence, sexual assault, child abuse, elder abuse, and human trafficking often face fragmented and duplicative systems of support that can re-traumatize survivors or impede access to justice. What this legislation does is it gives the opportunities, the framework, if you will, for every municipality in the state of Georgia to create a place, a single place that a victim can go through, to get the help that they need. What it does is it creates a family justice center so that the victim can go there, find the services that they need, find the resources that they need to get the help that they need. There's no money in this right now, but it's a very good piece of legislation. I would appreciate your support on this. And as I wait for your vote, I'll be sitting next to the longest serving governor's floor leader in North America. Thank you.
Senator's yielded, Senator. Senator from the 41st, would you like to speak to your amendments?
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise. This is a whip team amendment that we are bringing, but I rise to ask your favorable consideration on Amendment 1 and 1A, which adds some provisions to make sure that rape kits are maintained for 10 years after someone receives a rape kit. Right now, the law only calls for those to be held for 12 months. So for 1 year. To move it to 10 would be a substantial, real help for women or people who are victims of rape. And so really do ask, this is quite consequential, and ask your favorable consideration. I appreciate the Majority Leader Whip, for joining me in this amendment to increase this to 10 years. So with that, I will yield for questions.
You do have a question, Senator. Recognize the Senator from the 46th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
Absolutely.
I like your Amendment 1A better than 1 because that 30 years just seemed extraordinary to me. Do you know what the statute of limitations is on sexual assault or on rape?
I do not know that. If you know the answer, I'm happy to receive that information.
I don't, but I don't think it's that long, and I just don't know why you should keep the documents longer than you could potentially prosecute anybody anyways. And I want to do everything we can to prosecute them, but I just don't want to overburden, the evidence collectors.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. And, this is work that we've been doing for a long time. First, we did an audit to just count the number of rape kits that were even out there. I know there's been a lot of work in the House on processing rape kits. We've been able to catch a number of serial rapists as a result of the money that this chamber, that this body has put into processing rape kits. And so I think we believe that 10 years is a good compromise in terms of keeping that evidence. And should we determine that we need longer time, well, we've got 10 years to figure that out. So I think this is a really good compromise, and really grateful for the work.
Recognize the senator from the 25th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the Senator yield?
I'd be happy to yield.
Were you aware that the GBI released a press release today that they have solved a 1984 rape and murder of Sandra K. Davis in Ware County, Georgia? It's 42 years with DNA evidence.
Yes, sir.
I think we don't need to put a time limit on it. We need to put it in CODIS and leave it and catch these people and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law.
Thank you so much. And I know you've done a lot of work with DNA and in your own bills. To be clear, this DNA will be put in CODIS. It's just about how long we keep the kit itself and the evidence. So it's not that people are only going to be in CODIS for 10 years. They will be in CODIS going forward. So I hope that will address the heart of your concern here. This is really about the actual kit, the evidence that takes up space on a shelf, not about the DNA that's taken from it.
All right, thank you.
Recognize the senator from the 14th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the senator yield?
I'd be happy to yield to the senator from the 14th.
Senator, is it not true that depending on the nature of the sexual offense, there's actually a variety of statutes of limitation in the code, some of them ranging from a few years up to 15 years, and when there's actual rape, is it not true? I just got a text message from somebody in the hallway who would definitely know, and I won't out exactly who it is, that there is no statute of limitation in certain cases of rape. Is that not true?
The senator knows of what he speaks.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for bringing this amendment.
Thank you.
Yeah, one more question, Senator. Recognize the senator from the 48th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator yield.
I'm happy to yield to my good friend from the 48th.
Senator, is it not true that the author of this amendment is sitting in the back of the room and has been working on this bill for nearly 4 years?
Senator, you know of what you speak. She has been a passionate supporter of this work, of victims and survivors of sexual assault. A lot of energy, blood, sweat, and tears really have gone into fighting to advocate for rape survivors and victims. And so I'm proud to be able to be a small part in this journey towards getting this type of legislation passed.
Is it also not true that a yes vote on this shows great bipartisanship and doing great things for victims in the state of Georgia?
That's right. Thank you so much, Senator. In the same way that the underlying bill is incredibly bipartisan, this is truly a bipartisan amendment as well. I'm really proud to be able to join with the sponsor, the Senate sponsor, to have this amendment. So thank you all so much. And with that, I will yield the well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on adoption of Amendment 1A. Is there objection to adoption of Amendment 1A? Without objection, Amendment 1A is added. Now we're on to Amendment 1, authored by the senator from the 41st. Is there objection to adoption of Amendment 1? Hearing none, Amendment 1 is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Question is on the passage of the bill as amended. All those in favor will vote yea. All opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48 and the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed as amended. Now, see, we have passed Democratic bills, we have passed Republican bills, and the AJC writes about me this morning that I'm holding up some House members' bills because of who they may or may not support. I don't think there's any danger. I love the representative back there, and she probably loves me, but I doubt she's voting for me. But guess what? We don't let good legislation not get passed because of political affiliation. So thank you, Representative. So wherever you are, AJC, one of these days you're going to write the truth. It'll probably be after this election cycle, though. But moving on. Recognize the senator from the 6th.
Mr. President, we're on such a good roll. I would hate to hit a speed bump. So to give a little more time for opposing sides to work some things out, I would move that we table HB 1259.
All right. Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 1259 by Representatives Dubnik of the 29th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 4 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to financing relative to the Quality Basic Education Act so as to prohibit virtual instruction to out-of-system students if the local school system has a college and career-ready performance index below the state average, to require an agreement between local school systems to allow for an out-of-system student to attend a virtual school, to require out-of-system students to not be counted towards equalization funds received by a local school system, to provide for an effective date, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes.
All right. Is there objection to the senator from the 6th motion? Without objection, 1259 is tabled. Recognize the majority leader for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we table HB 963.
Secretary, read the caption.
House Bill 963 by Representatives Martin of the 49th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to government transparency and campaign finance so as to prohibit foreign nationals from contributing to or participating in any campaign to bring about the approval or rejection by the voters of any proposed question which appears on the ballot, to provide for definitions, to require certifications by certain campaign committees as to compliance with such prohibition, to prohibit the disclosure of certain protected donor information, to provide for a penalty, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes.
Is there objection? Without objection, 963 is tabled. Secretary, read the caption on House Bill 256.
House Bill 256 by Representatives Wydower of the 121st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to programs of protection for children so as to revise provisions relating to the Foster Parents Bill of Rights, to provide for definitions, to provide that such rights include relative caregivers and fictive kin, to provide for the development of administrative procedures, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Children and Families recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted to Senator Kirkpatrick, 32nd District Chairman. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Children and Families offers the following substitute to House Bill 256, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 11 of Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions related to the Juvenile Code so as to require the recording of all proceedings under the Juvenile Code, to establish the right of parties to obtain a full and complete record of proceedings under the Juvenile Code, to establish the right of the Department of Human Services and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
There he is, my favorite reporter. Recognize Senator from the 6th, the Rules Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is very simple. Foster Care Bill of Rights. Been working on this for several years. It allows any party to proceeding in juvenile court and the Department of Human Services, when permitted to participate, to obtain a full and complete record of juvenile court proceedings without a court order. The bill also renames this the Foster Parents Bill of Rights to the Foster Placements Bill of Rights. and allows all foster placements to have access to non-identifying information from a placement or child protective service record. I'll yield for questions.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you. I urge your favorable support for HB 256.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. The question is on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection to the adoption of the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee, which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. Report of committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. Main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Secretary will read House Bill 659.
House Bill 659 by Representatives Green of the 154th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 34 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to medical professionals for rural assistance so as to expend medical education funding and the service cancelable loan program to include optometrists to provide for related matters to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Health and Human Services recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Watson of the 1st District Chairman. Mr. President, Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd District and others offers the following amendment. Amendment 1, amend House Bill 659 by replacing lines 1 through 4 with the following: to amend Chapters 7 and 34 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to regulation and construction of hospitals and other healthcare facilities and medical professionals for rural assistance, respectively, so as to permit administration of certain medications to residents of personal care homes and assisted living facilities, to expand medical education funding and the serviceable cancelable loan program to include optometrists, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Recognize Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, House Bill 659 simply adds optometrists to the list of health care practitioners who may have their loan forgiven if they practice in rural areas. Of course, the idea here is to entice more optometrists down to our rural areas that are in much need and have a critical shortage. The current list includes physicians, dentists, physicians' assistants, and advanced practice registered nurses, and we're simply adding optometrists. I'll yield for questions.
Recognize Senator from the 51st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
Absolutely.
When describing rural Georgia, and you say down to rural Georgia, would you also refer to up to rural Georgia and North Georgia as well? Would that be a true statement?
Well, it just depends on what part of Georgia you're in there, Senator. If you're up in rural Georgia, you would be talking about down in rural Georgia.
Or
But
around.
if you're anywhere else, you could say up or down or around.
Up and down and all around. Sort of like a merry-go-round or a circus. Would you compare
Sorta.
that to a Senate?
Sort of.
Thank
More
you,
like-
Senator.
more
Just
like
making
the-
sure you didn't forget us little people up there in the mountains. Thank you.
I certainly would never forget y'all.
You have no more questions,
I
Senator.
support the amendment.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Chair hears none. Is there? Senator from the 32nd, I apologize. Come speak to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. This amendment is also about health care, and this has to do with the certified medication aides that can give medications in our nursing facilities like insulin, epinephrine, and B12 shots. This just adds the GLP-1 medications to that list. Very simple. Happy to answer any questions. That's the drugs that are being used against diabetes.
You have no questions, Senator.
Thank you.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure? Is there objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Question is on the adoption of amendment number 1 by the senators from the 32nd. Is there objection? Without objection, amendment number 1 is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? Chair hears none. The main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill as amended. All those in favor will vote yea. Opposed, nay. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 46 and nays are 0. And this bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed as amended. All right, so we're going to take, I know the pro tem has dinner coming at 6, I believe. It's 5:50 right now, and so we're going to take a little dinner break. Y'all want one more bill? I mean, you know, if we're not here till midnight on Thursday, they're going to whine over there, right? You know that, don't you? One more? All right. Secretary Reed, House Bill 297.
House Bill 297 by Representatives Anderson of the 10th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-1-1 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to definitions relative to motor vehicles and traffic so as to revise the definition of multipurpose off-highway vehicle to amend Article 10 of Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to ad valorem taxation of motor vehicles and motorhomes so as to define multipurpose off-highway vehicle and subclassify such vehicles for ad valorem taxation purposes, to provide that such vehicles shall not be returned or taxed for ad valorem taxation purposes, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date and applicability, to repeal conflicting laws for other purposes. Mr. President, the Committee of the Senate on Transportation recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Dolezal, the 27th District Chairman. Okay. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Transportation offers the following substitute to House Bill 297, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Titles 12, 32, 36, 40, 45, 48, and 50 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to conservation and natural resources, highways, bridges, and ferries, local government, motor vehicles and traffic, public officers and employees, revenue and taxation, and state government, respectively, so as to abolish the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority, to change the name, jurisdiction, governance, and powers of the Atlanta Region Transit Linked ATL Authority, to transfer all assets, obligations, liabilities, and employees of such authorities to the Georgia Transportation Efficiency Authority, to provide a board and for other purposes.
I tell you what, if I'd known it was this bill,
Mr. President, Senator Anna Vitarte of the 31st District offers the following amendment. Amendment 1, amend the Senate Committee on Transportation substitute to House Bill 297 by replacing lines 39 and 40 with the following. Compliant zone county means a county with a non-attainment area, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Yeah, we're going to stand at ease real quick. All right, let's go to dinner. I'm not sitting here listening to this for the next 30 minutes, so stand at ease.